She told me my place at his funeral, but what I discovered in the envelope changed everything. Sarah stood in front of the mirror. The reflection staring back at her seemed foreign and heavy. The weight of grief tangled with the burden of raising 2 kids alone pressed down on her shoulders. As a single mother, she wore her determination like armor, yet today felt different. Today she would attend her estranged father's funeral, a man she barely knew, but whose absence loomed over her like a dark cloud. It stung deeply to know that he was gone forever, leaving behind a knot of unresolved emotions that twisted in her chest. Walking into the chapel was like stepping into a war zone. The air was thick with tension and whispered judgments. The soft sobs of the few people who knew her father were loud in her ears. Everyone looked at her with a mixture of pity and confusion. Then stood his widow, sharp and cold, her eyes flickering disdain as she dismissed Sarah with a flick of her wrist. "You know your place here," she hissed, as if written scripts of pain and anger had been passed down like ancient family heirlooms. Sarah's heart raced, each beat echoing the love and resentment she held for the man who was both a stranger and a father. The emotional turmoil bubbled within her, the urgency of funeral costs pulling at her conscience. Why did she care? Why was she here? But as the words of the widow twisted into daggers, she felt anger ignite deep in her belly. In the chaotic whirlwind, she held onto one thought: her children. They deserved better than this bitter legacy and hidden truths. Pushing through the crowd after the service, Sarah found herself avoiding everyone until she stumbled upon her father's old jacket, its fabric worn and faded but somehow comforting. Taking a deep breath, she began to sort through his belongings. It was then she discovered the envelope tucked inside a pocket, its edges fraying and yellowed with age. As she flicked it open, her heart began to race. Letters poured out one by one, words spilling into her hands like secrets begging to be told. Each letter revealed her father's internal battles, struggles that fought for dominance, yet remained silent for so long. Lines spoke of torment, of war not fought in a foreign land, but in the quiet corners of his mind. Regret dripped from every sentence, filled with longing for a connection he'd never found the courage to forge. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes, a mix of sorrow and empowerment washing over her. This revelation was a doorway. She would not be silenced anymore. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The funeral had moments of stillness, a pause that enveloped the room as Sarah stepped forward, each footfall echoing her resolve. She gathered her breath, and the secrets strapped to her heart. "My father fought wars you'll never understand," she exclaimed, raw and unfiltered. He just die, he suffered, and I'm here to speak for him." The crowd shifted. Their murmurs grew louder, an undercurrent of recognition seeping through the cracks of their perceptions. But just as the air in the room began to change, Sarah's eyes locked onto a familiar figure, her father's old war buddies. They stood at the back, wearing expressions that carried unspoken admiration and unease. A storm of unresolved questions churned in her stomach. What had they seen? What were their stories? In that moment, Sarah sensed a connection not only to her father, but to a past that threatened to shape her future. The legacy of understanding and reconciliation was far from over. As she opened her mouth to continue, she realized this was just the beginning. The shadows of her father's life still awaited her embrace, whispering secrets that could surely change everything. The room felt heavy, almost electric, with a mix of grief and unspoken truths. Sarah's heart beat loudly in her chest as she stared at her father's friends. They were a band of brothers, stitched together by shared experiences under the weight of immense struggle. Memories flashed through her mind, moments she'd wished she had shared with her father, moments now locked away with his letters. Sarah. One of the men called, his voice steady yet tinged with sorrow. He stepped closer, his hands clasped in front of him, a silent sign of respect. Your dad, he had some battles. But he loved you, you know. We all saw it. Her breath caught in her throat. Did he? Did he love her despite everything? The uncertainty left a bitter taste in her mouth. I barely knew him, she said, her voice trembling just a bit. How could he love me when he left? The man shifted his weight, glancing back at his friends who were now gravitating closer, drawn to the confrontation. He didn't choose to leave you. The war changed him, and the choice he made to protect you by staying away, well, that was a battle too. Tears stung Sarah's eyes again. Just when she thought the grief might ease, it reared its head, demanding answers, demanding understanding. But I needed him. Didn't he see that? All I ever wanted was to feel like I mattered to him. As the words spilled from her lips, a woman from the back stepped forward. You mattered, Sarah. Her eyes shone with knowledge, a depth of feeling that Sarah had yet to unearth. He wrote about you, about how proud he was. He fought his demons too, but he battled them alone. Why didn't he reach out? The question hung in the air, sharp and unyielding. A silence fell over the group, heavy and palpable. Sarah caught the flicker of regret woven into their expressions. They knew stories, untold tales that had traveled through time, resting in the silence of war. A deep voice cut through the stillness. Sometimes it's easier to build walls than to let someone in. He thought he was protecting you, Sarah. The echoes of her past intertwined with the present, creating a ripple she hadn't anticipated. Would her father's silence disrupt the cycle of pain that marked her own life? Could she gather the fragments of his past to foster something better for her children? Can you tell me? She pleaded quietly, her voice softened by the sheer weight of trauma and longing. What was he like? What did he suffer from? They shared stories, snippets of laughter mingled with tears. Tales of bravery, mixed with vulnerability. It was healing, but also heart-wrenching. With every tale, she felt a flicker of connection. As secrets emerged, they painted a portrait of a man who wrestled with significant flaws and deep love, a man more human than the ghost of her memory. I will find an understanding, Sarah whispered to herself, a promise forged in the turmoil. He fought a war I didn't see, but now, I will fight for both of us. An idea sparked within her. It was more than a revelation, it was hope. What if she could tear down the silos of her family's history? What if reclaiming her father's story could start a new legacy for her children? But just as she began to digest this potent realization, the widow reemerged, her presence like a dark cloud returning to cast shadows over the newfound light. Enough of this nonsense, the woman hissed, her eyes flashing with anger. He has gone. You have no claim to his past. Sarah met her gaze, a new resolve hardening within. But I do. I am a part of him, whether you like it or not. I have his letters, and with them, I will forge a path for my family. The widow stepped closer, and the tension thickened, the air rippling under the weight of their confrontation. Who would win this battle for the truth? As the room simmered with unuttered words and charged emotions, Sarah realized her journey was just beginning. What truths lay waiting in the shadows, and would they help her finally understand the intricate tapestry of her father's life? The stakes were higher than she ever imagined, but the challenge ahead was one she was determined to take on. Sarah's heart raced in the damp silence. She could almost feel the eyes of the room on her, a mix of curiosity and concern for what was about to unfold. The widow loomed, her presence a dark weight that threatened to crush her newfound resolve. You have no idea what he went through, the woman seethed, contempt dripping from each word. You're right, Sarah acknowledged, her tone steadying. I didn't know him like you all did. But I want to. I need to know. The truth was a flickering beacon in her mind, illuminating the darkness of her own past. The men around her shifted, sharing glances of uncertainty and sympathy. A memory flickered in her mind of her father alone, writing letters late at night under the dim glow of a lamp, his brow furrowed, surrounded by a chaos she could not grasp. She had pieced together the silhouette of a man, but now she yearned to understand the complexities of his spirit. The widow scoffed, her lips curling in disdain. What does it matter now? He chose his path long ago. His path led him away from me, yes, Sarah replied, her voice cracking slightly. But I refuse to let that choice define me. I want to break free from this cycle of silence. If there are stories, I want to hear them. The widow's eyes narrowed, assessing the determination in Sarah's gaze. This wasn't a whim. Sarah was prepared to fight for her father's legacy. The urgency of her quest surged through her veins, igniting a fierce passion. One of the men, a tall figure with kind eyes, stepped forward, his demeanor shifting from passive witness to participant. Sarah, maybe she doesn't understand, but it takes courage to confront the past. He took a breath, his voice growing softer. Your father's story is laced with pain, yes, but it's also woven with moments of joy, love, and pride for you. Please, Sarah encouraged, her breath quickening. Tell me about those moments. Let me see the man behind the pain. The man nodded, and the group settled into a more comfortable space, sharing anecdotes that painted vibrant snapshots of a life well lived. Sarah listened intently as tales of joy mixed with sorrow, creating a beautiful tapestry that she could almost touch. Each story transformed her father from a specter into a real person. But what about the widow's bitterness? Was it just a shield? Or was it something deeper, something she had lost too? The room buzzed with emotion as Sarah caught snippets of laughter and tears. But one thought nagged at her: the widow was holding back, her darkness still unspoken. Will you share with me? Sarah asked, her eyes pleading. Tell me why you harbor such resentment. What did he mean to you? For a moment, the widow's expression softened, caught off guard by the vulnerability in Sarah's inquiry. Then, like a storm bearing down, her anger returned. He was a ghost in my life, a shadow that never truly committed. He loved you from a distance, yet he left me to face the aftermath. I'm not the enemy here, Sarah replied quietly, her voice barely more than a whisper. I'm here trying to understand the man he was. Then something shifted in the air. A crack in the widow's armor appeared as she hesitated. Could Sarah's desire for connection soften this fracture? The widow's gaze flickered, revealing a hint of vulnerability. Before Sarah could explore this potential doorway, the tall man pulled away and retrieved a small envelope from the table near the door. We found this among your father's belongings. You should have it. What did the envelope hold? Letters? Secrets? Or perhaps it was the final piece of the puzzle, a link to the father she longed to understand. As the room hushed again, she reached for the envelope and felt a surge of anticipation. Everything hung in the balance as she tore it open. What would she uncover, and how would it change her view of her father, and perhaps alter her relationship with the widow forever? Sarah mustered the courage to peek inside, her heart racing. Did this moment hold the key to unraveling the mysteries of their intertwined lives? The question lingered in the air, heavy with possibility, as she prepared to read the words that might change everything. The envelope crinkled between Sarah's fingers as she opened it, her heart pounding against her ribs. Inside, a stack of aged papers had tumbled forth, their edges worn and frayed. She took a deep breath and unfolded the top page, its yellowing surface filled with her father's familiar scrawl. Dear Sarah, it began, and her breath hitched. The words seemed to echo through the silence of the room, each syllable resonating deeply. If you're reading this, I'm no longer with you. I wish I could have given you more of me. Her pulse quickened, and she fought back tears. This was a glimpse, an invitation into a world she had only imagined. As she scanned the letter, her father's voice came alive in her mind. He spoke of love, regret, and the countless moments he missed. Each line felt like a soft touch on her heart, unearthing the pain of absence, but also a connection that transcended time. The widow shifted uncomfortably beside her, the intensity of the moment seeping into her guarded presence. Sarah glanced up, searching for some reaction, but the woman's face remained a mask, betraying nothing. Dad, Sarah whispered, going deeper into the letter. He described the little things, the times he'd watch her giggle with friends at the park, the lullabies sung through closed doors, the way her smile lit up his world. Words of pride spilled forth, illuminating a man driven by both love and fear. "I wish I could have met you where you stood." Warmth flooded Sarah's chest as she read his unfiltered emotions. But there was more. An undercurrent of sorrow began to weave its way through the sweet memories. The letter spoke of choices made, paths taken, and how they tore him apart. "I chose to fight my battles alone, Sarah," he wrote. "I thought it was noble, but I crumbled under the weight." The urgency of his words struck her. Her father had been battling demons she had never known about. A fear of failure, a history of hurt, each moment pressing on him like a vice. His truth echoed the widow's barbed remarks, and realization sliced through her like cold air. A part of him had always felt trapped, stuck between two worlds. As she continued, a new page caught her attention. It was a different tone, one of revelation. There was a series of names. Each one held weight, etched in ink like secrets he had clung to. She flipped the page, eyes wide, scanning the names in disbelief. "If you're ever in doubt, find these people. They can help you understand who I truly am." Was Sarah's stomach knotted. Could these be connections that her father held, pieces of his past that he never shared with her? The thought of reaching out to strangers filled her with excitement and fear. What if they, too, carried grief or anger? The room was still as everyone leaned in, captivated by her reaction. "There are names," she murmured, unable to hide the trembling of her voice. "Important names. He wanted me to seek them out." The widow's eyes flickered, an expression somewhere between fear and urgency flashing across her face. "Don't," she rasped, the intensity in her voice compelling. "It's not worth the pain." "But I need to know," Sarah countered, her heart racing with determination. This was not just about the past, it was about her future. Did the widow fear the truth? Or could it rescue them both from the shackles of grief? "I can't help but think," she began, the weight of the envelope solid in her hands. "What if this is a chance for us to heal together?" The widow's gaze locked on hers, a fleeting moment of connection as the warmth of vulnerability seeped into the air. What would she choose now? Sarah held her breath, the envelope heavy with unspoken truths. What would she find if she dared to follow her father's words? In the silence, anticipation hung thick. Would she uncover a legacy of love and complexity, or would the pursuit of truth unearth buried resentments? No matter the answer, Sarah was resolute. The door to understanding was now wide open, and she was ready to step through. The names on the page seemed to pulse with life, urging her forward into the unknown, a chapter waiting to be written. But what awaited her on the other side of that threshold? Would she find the answers she craved, or would more questions rise from the ashes of discovery? The widow's expression darkened as Sarah clutched the envelope tighter, her fingers trembling slightly. It was like watching two worlds collide, the past and the present merging in this fragile moment filled with uncertainty. The woman seemed so fierce and fragile at once, as if the memories they shared might crumble under the weight of their conversation. "Sarah," the widow's voice softened, "you have to understand. Digging into his past might only lead to more questions, more pain. I've lived with the uncertainty for too long." Sarah shot back, her resolve sparking like a flame. "I wish I'd known him better. What if these names, they hold pieces of him that I deserve to know?" Silence enveloped them. The soft ticking of the clock echoed ominously, amplifying the tension in the room. The widow finally exhaled, her defenses wavering as she looked away, her eyes tracing patterns on the floor. "Can you bear the truth?" she asked quietly, leaning in as if sharing a secret. "Sometimes the truth can shatter everything you hold dear." Drawing a deep breath, Sarah met her gaze. "I can't run from it anymore. It's time to find out who he was, who I am in relation to that." The widow hesitated, caught in the web of conflicting emotions. Her lips pursed tightly, as if a storm was brewing behind them. "They're not all good people, Sarah. Some of them have their own scars. Maybe those scars can help me understand him," she replied firmly, though doubt crept at the edges of her heart. Each name represented a thread she yearned to pull, daring the memories and stories hidden away, tucked behind years of silence. With a small nod, the widow finally relented, stepping back to let Sarah breathe. "You're right. It's your journey now. Just promise me you'll be careful." "I will." Sarah felt a rush of gratitude. For the first time, the widow was offering not just support, but a shared moment of empowerment. She focused back on the letter, scanning the names again. Each one felt like an anchor, grounding her in the chaotic sea of emotions she navigated. She settled on the first, name, a melody of hope and dread all at once. Alice Bennet, it read, and her heart thumped louder. "Do you know her?" Sarah asked, seeking guidance in the widow's eyes. "The name sounds familiar," she said slowly. "She may have known your father once a long time ago." "Then I have to find her." The enthusiasm surged in Sarah as she excitedly stood up, the weight of the envelope no longer a burden but an invitation to discover her past. Each step forward felt lighter, the potential for healing hanging in the air like a bright, uncharted territory. The widow watched her leave, concern evident in her furrowed brow. "Sarah, wait," but it was too late. Sarah had already crossed the threshold of the unknown, her heart beating faster with every step into a future that shimmered with the promise of revelation. With determination thrumming through her, Sarah left the house that had always felt heavy with grief, stepping into the fresh air. She pulled out her phone, heart racing as she searched for the name. What if Alice had stories to share, pieces that would unlock mysteries buried deep? As she scrolled, her fingers trembled. Each new hit felt like a heartbeat, a door nudging open. Would Alice be kind? Would she hate Sarah for reaching out? The questions tumbled through her mind like leaves in the fall, but an undeniable truth echoed within her: the past wouldn't be hidden anymore. For every name her father left behind, a new chapter beckoned, a possibility laced with transformation, and just as she was about to hit the call button, a sudden realization washed over her. What if Alice held a key not just to her father's past, but to her own identity? Would discovering her father shape the woman she was becoming? Sarah clutched the phone tight, an unsteady breath escaping her lips. There was no retreating, now only the plunge into the depth of her father's life, and what it might reveal about her own. Summoning courage, she pressed the button, and just then, an unexpected shadow fell across her. A forgotten name loomed. Large, a whisper from her father's letter. What connection did it have to Alice? Was this truly just the beginning, or a fork in the road that might lead her somewhere unexpected? As the phone rang, each tone felt like a pulse, a countdown to uncertainty. Sarah's heart raced, her thoughts racing faster. She hadn't expected Alice to pick up. In her mind, she rehearsed what she would say, her palms sweaty against the cool surface of the phone. "Come on, pick up," she whispered, almost as if willing fate to bend in her favor. The sound of a click brought her attention back to the moment. "Hello?" A warm, inviting voice answered. "Hi, is this Alice Bennet?" Sarah's voice came out steadier than she felt. "Yes, this is Alice. Who is this?" I'm Sarah, the daughter of John Weaver." The silence that followed felt heavier than she had anticipated. Could Alice's hesitation hold stories yet untold? "John? It's been years." Alice's voice trailed off, a mix of surprise and nostalgia threading through her words. "Do you remember him?" Sarah pressed, her heart thudding in her chest. "I found his name in a letter, and I'm trying to learn more about him. About who he was." "Learn more?" Alice chuckled softly, but there was an undertone of sadness in her laughter. "Oh dear. He was a complicated man. I don't know how much good I can do." "Anything would help," Sarah insisted, desperation threading through her tone. "I just want to understand him." Alice paused again, and Sarah could hear the faint sound of rustling, as if Alice were gathering her thoughts. Where to begin? John had a kind heart buried under an avalanche of regrets, and a darkness he couldn't shake off. Sarah's stomach twisted. Every word felt like a step closer to unveiling the shadows of her father's life and, in turn, her own. Could you tell me about the things he did?" His life before Alice took a deep breath. John was tied to people who, well, let us say they weren't always above board. But there was light in him, too. He loved deeply, sometimes recklessly. There it was again, the glimmer of hope amid the chaos. Was it really worth unraveling these buried tales, knowing some might hurt? Was there someone special? Sarah asked, unsure where the question came from. Alice's silence felt heavy. There was a woman he loved, fiercely. But things didn't work out, as often happens in life. Her name was Sarah prompted, anxiety threading through her veins. Marie, Alice replied, the name lingering in the air like smoke from a fading fire. But that's a story you should hear in person if you're willing. Sarah's heart beat at the prospect of meeting Alice. Can we, then? Could I come see you? A brief pause, then Alice replied, I'd like that. But just so you know, there are still shadows lingering. Light doesn't come without darkness. The thrill of discovery clashed with a deep-seated fear. What did Alice know that could turn more pieces of her world upside down? Okay, Sarah said, swinging her resolve anew. I'm ready for whatever it takes. Tomorrow at 10? Alice offered. I'll be there, Sarah agreed, the excitement coursing through her like electricity. After hanging up, she stared at the envelope in her hand again. It felt heavier than before, pressing against her chest. The uncertainty felt terrifying yet exhilarating, her father's past unfolding just ahead. As she turned to head back home, she couldn't shake off a nagging feeling. What had Alice meant about the darkness? Could her father's love have birthed deep scars? Would their shared truths only complicate the identity she thought she had? With a night full of questions ahead, she felt the weight of the chase intensify. Tomorrow would bring her closer to unveiling her father's past, but it might cost her more than she anticipated. Was she prepared for that? How much of herself was she willing to give up to piece together a legacy shrouded in shadows? Morning light streamed through Sarah's window, casting long shadows across her cluttered room. She sat on the edge of her bed, the stark white envelope resting heavily in her lap. The clock ticked, a steady reminder that time was slipping away. She felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation, her heart caught between both impulses. What lay inside that envelope? With each tick of the clock, the weight of her father's past pulled her further into unknown territory. She had hoped for clarity, yet her heart ached with a strange longing. What stories would Alice bring to life? Would uncovering John's past bring her closer to the father she never truly knew, or was this journey destined to unravel everything she thought she understood about herself? Sarah got up and paced the room, biting her lip. Questions darted through her mind like fireflies, each shining with the potential to illuminate her future or plunge her deeper into shadows. In a few short hours, she'd be face to face with a woman who held pieces to a puzzle long hidden from her. She dressed slowly, her movements deliberate. Each article of clothing felt like armor, a barrier against whatever revelations awaited her. After a quick breakfast that she barely registered, she grabbed the envelope, clutching it tightly as she headed out the door. Driving toward Alice's house, the world outside blended into a blur of colors and shapes. Trees whizzed by, the green blurring into a painter's palette as a rush of thoughts overwhelmed her. She had never felt such urgency about a meeting before. On a normal day, a chat with a distant relative might feel like casual family gossip, but today, it was the gateway to something much more profound. Arriving at Alice's small, charming house, Sarah stepped out of her car and hesitated. The sun hung brightly overhead, but shadows swirled in her mind. She took a deep breath, finally summoning the courage to approach the door. The wood creaked as she knocked, each sound echoing her rising heartbeat. A moment later, Alice opened the door, her smile warm yet laced with a hint of sadness. "Sarah," she said, her voice a soothing balm.
"Come in."
As Sarah crossed the threshold, the air felt thick with unspoken stories. They settled in Alice's cozy living room, surrounded by trinkets that hinted at a past life, pictures on the mantel, a well-loved armchair, and sunlight filtering through vibrant curtains. "John," Alice began, her voice trailing off as she glanced at an old photograph on the wall. He was so full of life, yet there was always a part of him that was lost. I loved him like a brother. Sarah's heart squeezed at the thought, a bond she could never fully comprehend. What happened between you two? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alice paused, searching for the right words. We all have scars, dear. Yours are just different from his. They talked for what felt like hours, Alice sharing stories of John, of his dreams, his struggles, and his relentless love for a woman named Marie. Each revelation was like pulling back layers of a life steeped in contradiction. Yet, for every story filled with laughter, there was a shadow lurking in the background, a looming tragedy that hinted at heartache. Finally, Alice leaned forward, her eyes piercing into Sarah's. You wanted the truth, Sarah. But know that sometimes the truth hurts more than the lies we tell ourselves. With those words, she reached for the envelope that had brought them together, placing it gingerly on the table. This was his last gift to you. I think it's time you opened it. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The weight of her father's legacy lay before her, and the anticipation was crushing. What secrets did this envelope hold? Did it contain the answers she sought, or would it throw her world completely off balance? With trembling hands, she reached for it, feeling the paper's textured surface against her skin. As she peeled it open, every moment of hesitation and doubt clashed with a newfound determination. Whatever lay within, she was ready to face it. Are you sure? Alice's voice cut. Through the tension in the room, Sarah looked up, her determination shining like a beacon. I have to know. As she pulled out a piece of paper, an unexpected chill swept through the air, hinting that the truth was just about to unravel in ways she could never have foreseen. What awaited her next? What would she discover that could change everything she thought she knew about her father? The paper slid out slowly, the edges worn and creased, like a window to her father's past. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of Alice's gaze on her. The world around seemed to fade as she unfolded the letter, her fingers shaking fiercely, heart racing with uncertainty. It began with a simple greeting, but as she read, her heart sank. My dearest Sarah, the words felt heavy, like a lead weight on her chest. Her father's handwriting danced across the page, an echo of the man she wished she had known. As she deciphered his familiar loops and swirls, she couldn't help but feel an aching disconnect. I know I haven't been the father you deserved, it continued, and she felt tears begin to blur her vision. I've fought my demons for too long. His words were honest, raw. With each line, she unraveled more of the man behind the title, a man she only recognized from distant memories and fleeting stories. He spoke of regrets, lost moments, missed opportunities, and a love that couldn't overcome the distance between him and the world. The letter painted a picture of a man shaped by choices that clashed with desires. There were things I couldn't tell you, things my mistakes have created. She felt Alice's breath hitch beside her, a mutual understanding that words couldn't capture. In the letter, he disclosed his struggles against shadows, battling addiction like a ghost in the night. It rattled in her mind, unraveling the idea she had of him, as if the man she had grieved was not the final story at all. Just as she was processing this new reality, she hit a line that made her stumble. You have an older sibling, Sarah. The words blared in her ears like a siren, halting her thoughts, shattering the delicate remnant of hope she held. Her fingers trembled as she continued reading. Their name is Lily. She gasped lightly. Why hadn't she known? Who was Lily, and why had her father kept this hidden? The letter went on to describe a relationship that had faded into silence, a daughter left behind, just as Sarah had been. Alice put a hand on Sarah's shoulder, grounding her as tears blurred her vision. The room felt both confining and expansive, the walls closing in as revelations expanded inside her mind. She looked up at Alice, searching for answers in her kind eyes. Did you know? Sarah whispered, struggling to hold it together, the floodgate threatening to unleash all her emotions. Alice nodded slowly. I knew there were other facets to John's life. Secrets are hard to carry. They weigh on everyone, not just those who keep them. A swirl of emotions surged inside Sarah: anger, betrayal, and an oddly comforting sense of belonging. So much heartbreak and deception hidden behind a door she thought was shut. Why didn't anyone ever tell me? Alice looked heartbroken herself, watching Sarah wrestle with this truth that was hers now. Some truths are too painful or too complicated to share. She turned her attention back to the letter, but the words now felt jumbled, indecipherable. Each revelation transformed her view of her father. He was fragile, imperfect, a man trying to protect her from his failures. As she absorbed the weight of it all, a newfound determination ignited in her. "I need to find Lily," Sarah declared, her voice stronger than she felt. "I need to understand this." Alice smiled softly. "You have the courage to face what's next, Sarah. But no, the journey ahead may be as complicated as the past." Sarah's pulse raced with both excitement and fear. What would she find when she searched for a sister she never knew existed? The road ahead teemed with uncertainty, but one thing was clear. Sarah would uncover every piece of her father's past and claim her own story, no matter how painful the journey. "Let us go find her," she said, rising to her feet with a resolve that shook the very air around her. Just then, a loud knock at the door made them both jump. Whirling toward the sound, uncertainty rippled through Sarah's gut. Who was it this time? With her heart pounding, she could only wonder what other secrets awaited her on this day of revelations. The knock came again, more insistent this time, vibrating through the stillness of the room. Sarah shot a look at Alice, who shrugged in confusion. With her heart racing, she made her way to the door, each step feeling like a leap into the unknown. She hesitated for just a moment, taking a breath to steady her nerves. What if it was someone from her father's past? What if it was Lily? The thought sent a thrill through her, mixing with anxiety. Opening the door, she found a woman standing there, her face familiar yet unrecognizable, framed by unruly dark hair and an expression of both hope and dread. "Sarah?" the stranger asked, her voice cracking slightly. "Who are you?" "I'm Lily," she said, her eyes wide as if she had just stepped into a revealing light. Within a heartbeat, warmth and confusion took over Sarah. A surge of disbelief washed over her. This was the sister she never knew. Desperation urged her to invite her in, but a sliver of caution held her back. "Why are you here?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lily fidgeted nervously, biting her lower lip. I came because I heard about your father's passing. I found out about you through some old letters of his. I didn't know if I should, but I felt I had to find you." To explain. The words tumbled out like stones, heavy and jagged. Sarah could barely comprehend the implications of what Lily was saying. "Explain what?" "I had no idea you existed," Lily said, stepping inside when Sarah moved aside for her. "But once I heard your name, everything clicked. The pieces of his life have always been fragmented for me, and to find you it feels like something I've been searching for." Sarah's heart twisted. She wanted to embrace this connection, but felt tangled in confusion and hurt. "Why didn't my father tell me about you? Why have you been hidden all this time?" Lily's eyes shimmered with pain. She took a moment, gathering her thoughts. "He was afraid. Afraid of what you'd think. Afraid of what it might mean for both of us. His demons, I guess. I always believed he was protecting me, but part of me wishes he had fought harder for us to know each other." Something shifted deep within Sarah. The anger began to dissolve, replaced by an ache of shared loss. They were both daughters of a man who couldn't keep his lives together, but here they were united by sorrow and mystery. "I'm sorry," Sarah mumbled, the apology slipping out before she could think. "I'm sorry you had to carry this burden too." Lily's lips twitched upward slightly in gratitude. "It's not your fault." She paused, then added, "There's so much more we need to talk about, truths about our dad that I wish I had known earlier, things he kept locked away." Sarah's breath caught. "Like what?" Lily's eyes darkened with urgency. "Things I only learned after he died. Things that could change how you see everything." Curiosity clawed at Sarah. Part of her was cautious, wanting to protect her heart, but another part ached for understanding. This was her chance to learn more about her father, about herself, and about the sister she had never had the chance to know. "Then let's talk," Sarah said, threading courage through her uncertainty. "We can figure this out together." But before they could delve deeper, another knock came at the door, louder this time. The uncertain air swirled around them, filled with unspoken truths and unanswered questions. "What now?" Sarah whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. Lily exchanged a glance with her, and Sarah could feel the weight of the moment pressing down. Whatever lay beyond that door promised to shift everything again. What new revelations awaited them? Sarah stood frozen by the door, a mix of curiosity and trepidation flooding her senses. The air felt electric, brewing with unspoken words. "Should I open it?" she asked, glancing back at Lily. The sister she never knew stood wide-eyed, mirror reflections of uncertainty glimmering between them. "I guess we have to know," Lily replied softly, a trace of fear lining her words. Taking a deep breath, Sarah turned the doorknob, the cold metal grounding her with its solidity. Swinging the door open, a flood of light poured in, revealing an older man standing there, a familiar face etched with lines of forgotten time. "Mr. Bennet?" Sarah gasped, recognizing him as Alice's husband. "What brings you here?" "Is Alice here?" he asked, his voice thick with anxiety. "I need to talk to both of you. It's about John and the truths." The mention of her father made Sarah's heart race anew, intertwining feelings of loss and longing. "Yes, come in," she implored, stepping aside. As he crossed the threshold, she could see the turmoil swirling in his eyes. Lily stepped forward, her expression shifting between confusion and anticipation. "Who is this?" he questioned, catching sight of Lily standing close to Sarah. "This is my sister, Lily," Sarah introduced, glancing at Lily for reassurance. "We just met. Both of you need to understand. John is more complicated than any of us can comprehend. I know bits of things, and it's crucial that you hear them." Sarah's breath hitched. The urgency of his words danced in the atmosphere, amplifying the weight of their shared loss and the quest for understanding that had brought them together. "Please tell us," Lily urged, her voice steady but tinged with apprehension. Mr. Bennet shifted his weight, his expression heavy. "There are parts of John's life he never discussed, the addictions he battled, the relationships he formed, and the people who left impressions on him that were not always healthy." The silence that followed wrapped around them like a cloak. "Do you know who those people were?" Sarah pressed, craving the information like a lifeline. "Some were friends, others enemies. He fought demons on different fronts," Mr. Bennet continued. "He loved your mother deeply, Sarah, but he was never able to rise above his own shortcomings." Sarah felt the reality settle on her shoulders, heavy but oddly comforting. Each layer pulled away the shroud of misunderstanding. "Why did he keep all this from us?" Lily asked, voicing the question that had threaded unspoken through both their hearts. "Because he feared he would hurt you both. He thought silence was protection," Mr. Bennet replied, pain threading through his voice. "Is that what we call protection?" Sarah murmured, meeting Lily's gaze. They were united now, two daughters shaped by the silence of a man who loved them fiercely yet failed them profoundly. "But have you both thought about what your journeys could be?" he questioned, looking between them. "Finding a path of understanding could free you from the history that haunts." Sarah felt the weight of his words, the hope and urgency blooming in the air. "Our own stories?" "Yes. It's not too late. Your father's life was a series of choices, but your paths don't have to repeat that cycle. You can learn and forge new legacies." In that moment, everything clicked into place. They were not just daughters grappling with abandonment. They were two women ready to reclaim their stories. A fierce determination surged through Sarah. This journey was about discovering who they were, together. "Lily, we can reshape our future," she exclaimed, her heart pounding with excitement. "We have each other now, and we owe it to ourselves and to him to find answers." Lily nodded, a fire igniting in her eyes. "Yes. No more secrets. We demand the truth, for the sake of our own lives." Drawing in a deep breath, Sarah turned back to Mr. Bennet, her heart lighter as if a weight had lifted. "Thank you for showing us the way. You've helped us see we can rewrite the script. As Mr. Bennet smiled, a flicker of pride dancing in his features, Sarah and Lily exchanged knowing glances. Their journeys, once overshadowed by their father's silence, now glimmered with opportunity and hope. "Let us honor him by living fully," Sarah whispered, her resolve shining bright. And just like that, amidst the tangled threads of their past, the sisters stepped forward into an unfolding future filled with promise, ready to tackle each truth, each regret, and every moment that would shape their new narrative together. The door of healing was wide open, welcoming them into a journey that would bind them stronger than any bloodline ever could. As they took their first steps into the unknown, they realized that wasn't the end. It was merely the beginning of a legacy rewritten by love and understanding. Now more than ever, it was vital to take control of their destinies. Everyone reading this, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support this incredible journey. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this transformative tale. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support, and don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of keeping this community alive through your actions.